Hello, everyone. I am indeed Jorge. And this talk was supposed to be with Lina Muniram, who is a senior platform engineer at Chainalysis, but she couldn't make it today. But I'm going to try to make it as fun as possible. It's not half as fun without her, but I'll do my best. And today we are going to talk indeed about driving platform adoption with embedded SREs. But before that, it's a story time. This story begins in a year that we all remember as a very charming year, which is 2020. And the memory that I want us to get back to is specifically March 2020. But that day was actually, that month was something that changed the world entirely. And it was that Backstage got open sourced. It was not the other thing that happened in March. We can forget about that. Because Backstage today is the third growest NCNC project after Kubernetes. But before then, at that time, the term platform engineering did not exist. We barely had somebody mention the word developer experience. Other things didn't exist. Before I go on, I forgot to ask, who here has a platform in their organization? Yes, great, that's good. This is following the patterns. It makes me believe that the media analysts don't lie to me that much, because they say that around 80% of organizations report to have a platform in their teams or their companies. So this seems to be about right, great. And back to Backstage in 2020, it got released, but it was not very popular. However, at that time, I was working at a consultancy company, and we had these huge customers who really wanted Backstage. Even though it was just fresh it was an open source project, they were ready to invest like six-figure contracts with us to implement Backstage for them, because the promises that Backstage had were great, right? It promises to solve everybody's problems. Like, we have always dreamed of having a single catalog. Well, all of our software is there. We can just access the documentation, have self-service actions. It's all the beautiful engineering things that we just dream about are promised in Backstage, only if you invest enough money in it. So I was excited about that. And what I thought was like, yes, Backstage is great. I've seen it work, but it is very difficult to install. So what if we could find a way of making it easier to access? So I joined a startup who was going to make Backstage easier by delivering it as a SaaS. And it did make a SaaS out of Backstage. However, as I was working there, I realized that the biggest problem was not installing Backstage, which is already a big problem. But the biggest problem is making somebody care about it, making your organization use the things that you make with Backstage or with your platform. And this is a bit farther. Oh, I added an extra slide, but it's gone. Doesn't matter. The problem is adoption. Because that is what makes platform engineers struggle, and especially in this economy, because a lot of platforms have to prove that they are a worthy investment, because companies invest a lot of money in the platform team. And we need really people to get on board with the platform. We have to report metrics on usage. We have to capture the services and see that all these golden paths are actually delivering value and not just shiny objects as gold. And that is not difficult. That is not easy at any scale, not at the enterprise, not at a startup, because developers are already maxed out with the amount of things that they have to manage, and you're just telling them, here's another tool for you. And they are like, cool, but maybe later. And usually there's also a problem of alignment, because we don't always all want the same thing. Even if we work for the same company, that doesn't mean that we all want the same objectives. Different teams have different priorities, and that makes it challenging to convince people to use their beautiful platform. So, on the other hand, I started working more on reliability over 2 years ago, and SREs are a much more established practice. Platform engineering was coined a few years ago. It was like battling to become a real thing, but SREs have been around for 20 years, which in tech, as you know, is a lifetime. It's like nobody, no stakeholder, even in the worst budget cuts, will say, let's cut off the SRE team. If you already have an SRE team, nobody wants to be responsible for saying, oh, we got rid of the reliability team. The name on itself is like, it has like some depth to it. So SREs have been traditionally gatekeepers. They decide if this goes or doesn't go, and often have to deal with the downfall as well, which is not great. Is there any SRE in the room? Oh, no. That's great, good. That's why Denmark is the happiest country. No SREs in the room, just one, but we can chat later. The problem, however, is that SREs are also usually very small. When I talk to teams, I'm like, how do you manage to have 100,000 SLOs with a team of 80 people? And this is a real case from Elastic. They only have 80 SREs worldwide, and they have literally more than 100,000 SLOs that they manage daily. So it's insane. But that also means that a lot of SRE teams struggle with having proactive reliability initiatives because they are often stuck in firefighting mode because there's an incident that they have to go and do something. So they have the problem that the platform doesn't have. And I thought I could introduce myself at this point. Before I keep telling you things, I am Jorge Fiesta. I am a reliability advocate. That's why I'm so bad at Danish. At Rootly, which is an on-call and incident management platform, like PagerDuty, but cooler and modern and AI and all the good things. That you will, when you hate something about PagerDuty, we don't have that. I got into road cycling last year, which means that I have lost a few friends, but I am cooler. And for the astute, you can see that this picture is taken in Denmark. It's in the road to Helsingør from Copenhagen, which is like one of the common routes. I had to stop a little because the wind destroyed me. I'm not used to this intense wind because people say there are no hills in Denmark, but there's the worst hill, then it's a wind. And I also write fiction. And with that, I don't mean my marketing copy. I mean just short stories. I got an award this year for a short story that I did from the Barcelona city. And setting the scene. So this talk is not about the great success and how to fix life, which is what talks are often about. This is more a normal talk of what we did and what we learned. And let's begin by setting the stage on Chainalysis. Chainalysis is a blockchain company that sells analytics. It's kind of fintech, crypto, some things that I don't understand. Lina is not here to try to explain to us, but they don't have an SRE team here. What they do instead is that they double down on the platform team, and what they have is like they have an SRE role within the platform team. So there's this one platform engineer who is like specialized on SRE things. So this person knows about observability, he knows about SLOs, he knows about OpenTelemetry, which is already a lot. So what they do is that they bake on the self-service options. All the observability is like baked in when you spin off a new service. So you have like these guarantees that a platform would provide in the new services that are going to be like reliable, quote unquote. All of these have all the standard practices that we are going to use. However, the platform team started existing a few years ago. So all these cool things only come for new services that emerged relatively recently. But the big problem really comes with a big, older, scary services which don't work with self-service. You cannot tell them to retrofit their legacy app into a cool new path or rewrite it entirely so they can use your tools. So that's not an option. And why do people fear this? It is because it is often seen as a unsurpassable mountain, like things that we cannot deal with. We don't want to touch this cluster because somebody wrote it, they left the company 5 years ago, and if we touch it, it might break, and all of our production data runs here. So we don't want to touch it. And the other side of things is we don't understand this new tooling that you're trying to impose on us, so we're not going to try to risk it. So there's a lot of valid reasons of why we wouldn't want to touch the mainframes, even though they are probably not mainframes, but just like the older services. So what can the platform team do to get on board, to have these services on board into the platform, which is going to be useful because at the end, if you only onboard the new services, you're not going to prove a lot of value to the stakeholders. You need to bring the heavy, expensive things that run in production into the platform to make your platform more worthy. So what they did is to send somebody on a embedded style with a short objective into the team and say, hey, we're going to fix this. We're going to instrument your cluster the new way so we can have the cool dashboards that for SLOs won from this massive service. That is very complicated. But the first step is just making it easy. So we choose this legacy, not legacy, but these older services that are very easy, a tiny thing. So we were so happy, we converted a few services and we're like, wow, we're so cool. But that's also because you just chose the first ones. The real problem comes when you have the bigger services that require more work. And what we did first was to teach by example, because everybody wants to be a platform engineer. So we told them how to use our tools. We wrote migration guides to have them write the things the way we want them to write them. We even had these mob sessions where like 30 people would supposed to log in and see us code the thing, and then they would obviously just do it themselves after we teach them. But what happened is that people started just dropping, not going, no, a lot of engagement, frustration as well, because nobody was happy, not the platform engineers, not the product engineers. So the next step was to teach a team how to fish. So what we did was to, instead of us driving the session, we had them sitting on the driving seat during the coding sessions. And the really key enabler is that we involve leadership as well. So sometimes a senior manager will be sitting in this call, and just the presence of this person in the call, even if they said nothing, made people more like, oh, I am actually going to be coding one or leading this session. Because it's not out of fear necessarily, but it's also about being seen by the senior leader who wouldn't otherwise maybe notice that you were actually doing an amazing work. So that worked much better. We had higher engagement, more involvement, less frustration. But the really big thing that we learned was also, and all these things is very obvious when you see it in hindsight, but when you're trying to navigate it, it's not that clear. And it's that if you delegate the ownership to a single person, this works much better. Because before it was like, oh, this team should do it. But this team is no one. So the things would not get picked up. A lot of migrations were just excited with some exciting when the manager was there, and then they were stopped. But if there was somebody who was responsible for them, then that would work better. The senior leadership involvement was also crucial. And what are we now? This is still very much a transition moment. We have transitioned one of the big services into the platform, which is already great. It's something that we, like if you asked me 2 years ago if you can do this kind of process, I would be like, yeah, maybe we should leave these people alone. Let them do the production work for us. But no, they are migrated, so now they have their cool dashboards, and they can have access to all the affordances that the platform has. However, this is just the beginning. We're just learning, and we also learned that this approach didn't work with the next team, because this was a more senior team, or there were people there just didn't care about leadership. They would just be like, no, I'm not doing this. So once they fight back, or like they just are like closed down and they don't want to hear from you, how do you make this happen? So that's when we realized that this is a conclusion that we should have arrived earlier to, but this is maybe a human problem, not a technical problem. But what we thought of is, what if we have some kind of more engineer-based way of managing this human problem? And while we know there is no single bullet of one way of making it work, what we thought is let's make some kind of agile and iterative approach where we just try things and document our findings and see what was the context of the team to start working some kind of scheme that we can use as we approach more and more and more and more teams. We have like different options to try with each team. So then it's a little bit more structured than just showing up and trying our best. We have ideas of if this team uses this stack or has this opinions or whatever, we can try to use this or that. So this is a massive, shiny object that it's just like some of the things that we have coded in a way of how to approach and things to try. And this is only based on our own experience, but this is the thing that we have right now at hand on how to reason on how to approach the different services before we just be like, oh, here's somebody that's going to work in your team. Good luck. Now we have a more structured discussion with them to figure out what would be the right approach for them. And that is all for me. Yeah. Thank you.